Imagine living a life where the chaos of the world doesn't affect you, where you're not swayed by luck or misfortune, and where you're strong enough to handle life's challenges. It might seem like an impossible dream, right? But what if I told you that the secret to this kind of life has been around for thousands of years, just waiting for you to discover it? Welcome to a very special video, a complete guide to the world of Stoicism. We are frequently carried away by waves of emotions, distractions, and worldly desires in our chaotic modern lives, which are often accompanied by noise and hurry. Stoicism offers a way to find inner peace, self-control, and mental toughness. It is firm and immovable like a rock. Mastering the art of letting go is the first thing we need to do on this road. You will learn not only how to tell the difference between things you can control and things you can't, but also how to let go of the things you can't control. We can clear out our inner and outer worlds through Stoicism and Minimalism, making room for more meaningful activities. Making room in our lives for what really counts is the first step. The next step is to strengthen our willpower. Building self-discipline is the Stoic way to become great. It's about developing values, controlling your urges, and living a life that doesn't follow society's ever-changing whims, but instead follows unchanging principles that make you happy. Now that we are focused, we face the problems in life head-on. That's where the mind that can't be broken comes in. We're going to talk about 10 strong lessons that will give you the mental toughness you need to get through life's big waves. Being optimistic isn't the point. The point is to build strong mental models that help you stay strong when things go wrong. Last but not least, get ready to free your mind. You will learn 10 life-changing lessons from Stoicism that will help you break free from the limits you put on yourself. You can take control of your emotions and actions and drastically improve the quality of your life if you know how to pull the right mental buttons. You can become impervious to the chaos of the outside world by following the Stoic advice we'll discuss today. It gives you a peace and happiness that nothing outside of yourself can take away. It's a trip to learn the art of living a life full of virtue, knowledge, and unbreakable strength. Now take a deep breath, prepare to learn, feel more confident, and gain freedom as we explore the modern-day Stoics' knowledge. What if you woke up in a peaceful place where everything you own has a place and a purpose? Your heart is happy and your mind is clear. You know that the only things you can control are your thoughts and deeds. So you can face the storms of life with a strong heart. It's not impossible to reach these seemingly impossible goals. In fact, the way to a meaningful life is at the heart of both minimalism and Stoicism, two philosophies that were created hundreds of years apart. Welcome to Minimalism and Stoicism, letting go for a meaningful life. In this video, we'll start a journey that will help you find a life that you not only live, but also love. First, let's talk about the growing modern minimalist trend. Minimalism is more than just a style. It's a way of life. It's about getting rid of the things that aren't important, the junk that makes our thoughts and places heavy, and focusing on the things that make our lives better. Minimalism started as an art trend that emphasized realism and simplicity in the middle of the 20th century. It slowly crept into many areas of culture, such as music, building, and way of life. People are turning to minimalism to get back their time, space, and focus. They are discovering that getting rid of the physical mess helps them build relationships, follow their hobbies, and enjoy a level of depth that material things can't provide. Now let's go back in time to the busy streets of ancient Athens, where Stoicism first appeared around the 3rd century BC. Like minimalism, Stoicism is about making things simpler, but its main focus is on making things simpler inside. The philosophy teaches that the best way to live a happy life is to build self-control, logic, and ethics. Stoicism helps people figure out what they can control and what they can't. It encourages people to focus on what they can control and let go of what they can't. Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, three Stoic philosophers, taught us that what makes us happy is not what is happening around us, but rather our perceptions and responses to it. Letting go is what connects minimalism and Stoicism. Minimalism tells us to get rid of unnecessary things in our bodies, and Stoicism teaches us how to let go of mental loads and ties. Both philosophies are based on the idea that there is freedom in simplicity and separation, which means freedom to live a meaningful, happy life. We will learn a lot about the subtleties of both minimalism and Stoicism in this film. We'll talk about where they came from, what they stand for, and how they can improve people's lives. We will also talk about how to apply these philosophies to our everyday lives and compare and contrast them. For example, case studies and anecdotes will show us how these ideas have changed the lives of real people. Finally, we will talk about what we have learned and encourage you to start using parts of minimalism and Stoicism that work for you. As we begin this illuminating trip through the worlds of minimalism and Stoicism, get ready to have your ideas about what it means to live a fulfilling life challenged. To live a meaningful life, you need to plan ahead, be good, and be brave enough to let go of what isn't important. Let's go down this road together. Now, let's get into the first part of our conversation, which is about what minimalism is. The minimalist movement as we know it today did not start by itself. Like many other art forms that came out in the late 1950s and early 1960s, it has its roots in music and visual arts. It was not thought that art had to be complicated in order to be meaningful, so these types of art focused on using simple things. As time went on, this idea changed into living minimalism. People started to question the consumerist culture that ruled society in the early 2000s, which is when minimalism became popular as a way of life. They wanted a life that was less complicated and more meaningful without all the things that come with it. This is where the modern minimalist movement got its start. It's a reaction to the excesses of capitalism and the search for happiness beyond material wealth. The fundamental principles that underpin minimalism will now be discussed in greater detail. To begin with, minimalism is all about making things easier. It means getting rid of the extra, the pointless, and the annoying things so that you can focus on what really counts. This could mean getting rid of junk in your house, making your schedule more manageable, or even cutting back on social media. Making a space in your mind and body that shows your values and priorities is what it's all about. This is the second core principle, being mindful. Making choices about what to keep and what to let go of is an important part of minimalism. It's not just about getting rid of things. Does this add value to my life? Does this align with my goals and values? This is what intentionality means. It means living with a purpose instead of just sliding through life. It's about making decisions that show what kind of life you want to live. The third aspect, quality, is more important than quantity. People in a consumerist culture are often told that more is better. This idea is questioned by minimalism. Less isn't better, just for the sake of less. It's about having the right things. Instead of collecting a bunch of useless things, it's better to put your money into good things and relationships that will last. Let's look at the many advantages of leading a simple lifestyle while keeping these principles in mind. To begin, minimalism can help you think more clearly. Getting rid of trash and other things that get in the way can help us concentrate and be creative. Not having to deal with the chaos around us frees up our minds to think more clearly and make better choices. Financial freedom is another huge gain. By planning what we buy and putting quality over quantity, we can cut down on spending a lot that isn't necessary. There may be savings, less debt, and the ability to spend money on meaningful activities and hobbies. The environmental impact of minimalism is also favorable. Our carbon footprint gets smaller when we use less. Making and throwing away things are two of the main things that hurt the earth. We are not only making our own lives better when we choose to live with less and make decisions that are good for the world when we do so. As with any trend, though, minimalism has its share of bad press and misunderstandings. One complaint that is often made is that being able to choose to live with less is a luxury that not everyone can enjoy. Some people also say that minimalism can turn into another form of consumerism if people keep buying new minimalist things to replace the ones they already have. Some people also think that minimalism means living with very little, or that it's an answer that works for everyone. It's important to remember that minimalism is not a rule, but a tool. This is a way to make a life that fits your values and priorities and can be changed to fit your needs and tastes. Although these complaints are important to look at, it is important to remember that minimalism is not a goal. Instead, it is a process of self-discovery and purpose. It's not a rigid set of rules, but a philosophy that can be changed to fit different wants and ways of life. Minimalism doesn't expect us to be perfect. Instead, it pushes us to make progress and be aware of the choices we make. In the same way, minimalism shouldn't just be seen as an advantage. The core principles of purpose and focusing on quality over quantity can be motivating for people from all social groups. Even though some parts of minimalism may be easier to adopt for those in a more stable financial situation, it can be about making the most of what you have and being happy with simplicity, no matter how many things you have. To clear up the false idea that minimalism means living a simple or poor life, it is also important to note that minimalism is not always about having a certain number of things. Finding what is meaningful and getting rid of what isn't is what it's all about. For some, this could mean a home with only the things they need, while for others, it could mean a carefully chosen collection of things that make them happy and serve a purpose. The philosophy of minimalism is deep and alive, and it's more than just getting rid of stuff. It's about making a life with meaning, purpose, and happiness. By focusing on quality, simplifying, and making smart choices, minimalism helps people get clear on their thoughts, be financially free, and protect the earth. But like any philosophy, it has its critics and people who get it wrong. You should go into minimalism with an open mind, knowing that it is a tool that can be used in many ways to create a meaningful life. As the movie goes on, we look into the old knowledge of Stoic philosophy and see how, like minimalism, it can help us let go of the extra in our lives, both outside and inside. Our discussion will focus on the similarities and differences between these two philosophies, as well as how they can be used together to make our lives more fulfilling. Stay tuned as we go on a trip through time and thought, pulling apart the threads of Stoicism and minimalism and stitching them into a fabric of happiness, purpose, and meaning. This is a call to rise to a life that is lived with awareness, integrity, and meaning, not just to purge or to be stoic in the face of hardship. May this trip make you think, question, and open up to the endless possibilities that lie in the simplicity and wisdom of Stoicism and minimalism. As we leave the modern rooms of minimalism, let us go back in time to the world of ancient times where Stoicism began. Stoicism is a school of Greek philosophy that began in Athens in the early 3rd century BC. The Stoic philosophy was founded by Zeno of Citium, who taught from the Stoa Poikile, a painted porch. Then in ancient Rome, Stoicism became very popular and was one of the most important philosophies during the Roman Empire. Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius are the three most important people in Stoic philosophy. In his letters and writings, Seneca, a Roman politician and writer, talks about how Stoic ideas can be used in everyday life. Epictetus, a famous Stoic teacher, was born as a slave in what is now Turkey. His Enchiridion and Discourses are important works that provide useful tips on living a good life. Last but not least, Marcus Aurelius, who was emperor of Rome, is sometimes called the philosopher king. His meditations, which he wrote while he was in the army, show what he really thought about right and wrong, duty, and the meaning of life. The first of the Stoic principles that claims our attention is reason. To the Stoics, reasoning and reason were the most important things in the world. They stressed the importance of using logic to understand and get around in the world. People thought that this logical way of thinking would lead to virtue and peace because it let people make choices that were in line with nature and morality. The second idea is that you can control how responses happen. For Stoics, there is a clear line between what we can control and what we can't. We have complete control over our ideas, perceptions, and deeds, but we cannot influence the outside world. We can stay calm in tough situations by focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we can't. The third principle is to seek virtue as the best thing that can happen. Stoic virtue includes knowledge, bravery, justice, and temperance, in addition to moral goodness. They thought that the key to happiness and satisfaction was to live a good life that was in tune with reason and nature. So how can this old philosophy help us deal with problems? Stoicism teaches us to separate ourselves from the chaos and look at things objectively through the lens of reason when we are confronted with difficulties. By doing this, we can keep our emotions from getting in the way of our decisions and act in a way that is consistent with our values. It tells us to look at problems not as bad things that happen, but as chances to learn and grow. Let's jump ahead to the present day. Even though it's an old philosophy, its ideas are still relevant today. Stoicism gives us a way to find our way through the storms in a world that is becoming more unstable and unsure. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a popular way to help with mental health problems. Its focus on reason and control over responses is similar to this theory. Leaders in the business world are also using Stoic principles to make smart choices and build resilience in their teams. This philosophy gives people who are interested in personal growth tools they can use to strengthen their minds and live purposeful, honest lives. Practices like writing, awareness, and self-reflection that encourage living in line with one's values are becoming part of everyday life. Stoicism is a philosophy that dates back to old Greece and Rome. It enables people to lead lives of happiness and moral integrity thanks to its central principles of reason, control over responses, and the desire for virtue. It can be used as a guide in a world that is always changing, from the lessons of Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius to current psychology and leadership. These philosophies can work together to create a strong foundation for a life that is not only clear and strong, but also deeply meaningful. With an open mind and a desire to learn, let us start this journey of discovery. We should be ready to question our beliefs, break out of old habits, and accept new ways of doing things. The ideas of minimalism and Stoicism invite us to go on a trip that is both about letting go and finding out what is really important to hold on to. This journey isn't just about ideas, it's also very emotional. We are all being asked to think about the choices we are making, the lives we are living, and the values we are supporting. It's a call to let go of what's extra and choose what's important, to stop the noise and choose knowledge, to let go of what's temporary and choose what will last forever. Together, let us follow the path of minimalism and Stoicism to a life that is not just lived, but loved, not just endured, but honored, and not just short, but meaningful. At one point, Stoicism and minimalism stand next to each other as we walk the road of discovery. Though they came out hundreds of years apart, these two strong philosophies have a lot in common as well as clear differences. Now let's take a close look at the tapestry they've made. Let's start with what they have in common. In the first place, both stress the importance of seeking simplicity and focus. Minimalism tells us to make our lives easier by getting rid of unnecessary things and clearing out our places. When it comes to our inner lives, Stoicism tells us to keep things simple by being reasonable and focused on what we can control. In both philosophies, we are told to get rid of what isn't important so that we can focus on what does. The second thing they have in common is getting rid of excess. In the philosophy of minimalism, this means getting rid of things that don't make our lives better. Stoicism is about letting go of excessive desires, emotions, and ties that obstruct our pursuit of virtue and cloud our judgment. Both philosophies agree that too much, whether it's physical waste or mental chaos, can get in the way of living a happy life. The third thing they have in common is that they both stress being happy inside. The idea of minimalism teaches us that happiness doesn't come from having more things, but from living a life with meaning. Stoicism, on the other hand, holds that happiness comes from living in harmony with nature and reason, not from receiving praise or money from other people. So let's look at the things that are different. The first difference is how they fit into history and culture. Modern minimalism grew out of a reaction against consumerism and having too many things. It was mostly popular in the Western world, but Stoicism comes from old Greece and Rome. It was an intellectual reaction to people's search for happiness and virtue in a world that was full of chaos. What's different about the second one is its reach and use. Minimalism is mostly about the real parts of our lives. It tells us to clear out our places and think about what we buy. Stoicism, on the other hand, looks at our internal ideas, emotions, and character in addition to our outward situations. The third difference is in what drives each person. A lot of people who are minimalists want to make their lives more open, free, and sharp. It's about taking care of your surroundings. However, Stoicism has its roots in moral philosophy. It's about taking care of your soul and spirit. The Stoic is driven by a sense of duty to live in a way that is in line with reason and nature. When we think about these ways the philosophies are alike and different, we can see that they are like two sides of the same coin. They both show us how to live a simple, focused, and happy life, but they do it in different ways and with different tools. If you think of minimalism as a way to get around in the real world by clearing out our areas and narrowing our actions, Stoicism is the guidance that helps us manage our thoughts, emotions, and character with virtue and knowledge as we travel through the internal seas. They work well together to make something powerful. Adding the focus and simplicity of minimalism to the wisdom and virtue of Stoicism can help us make a life that is not only clear and focused, but also deeply meaningful and in line with our greatest values. Not only should we pick one philosophy, but we should pick both. Let's instead see them both as helpful guides that work together. The guide of Stoicism will keep us on a path that is true to who we are and what we value. Let minimalism be the ship that moves us forward. Let's take a moment to think about this. Take a moment to think about the places we live and the things we keep around us. Are they useful or are they just extra stuff? Now look inside yourself. Consider our words, feelings, and deeds. Are they in line with our values or are they all over the place? Let's take with us the core of Stoicism's call to knowledge and minimalism's call to simplicity as we move forward. Let's be like builders and carefully plan a life that meets our deepest needs for meaning and happiness. Even though the two philosophies come from different places and have different goals, they both aim to help us live a life that is simple and full of what's important. Minimalism tells us to clean up the outside world, and Stoicism pushes us to control the inside world. We discover a road that leads not only to simplicity or knowledge, but also to a life that is deeply meaningful in their convergence. As we stand at the intersection of these two philosophies, we have the power and the tools to shape our journey. It will be as unique as each of us, but it will be focused on the goal of a more meaningful and happy life. It's not always easy to go on this trip. Sometimes you have to be brave and let go. Each step we take on this road, though, weaves together threads of simplicity, knowledge, purpose, and happiness to make a fabric. Let's take the flames of Stoicism and Minimalism with us as we enter the world of practical application. With open hearts and minds, let us learn more about these old philosophies, combine their ideas, and live by their lessons. Let us keep moving forward by being thankful for the knowledge that has been passed down through the years and for the chance to make it a part of our lives. The actual application of these philosophies will be covered in the following section. We will talk about ways to incorporate Stoicism and Minimalism into your daily life, creating a fabric that is not only straightforward and wise, but also deeply meaningful. The merging of these philosophies into our daily lives is a crucial step on our journey. As we make our way through the rich fabric that is minimalism and Stoicism, here is where the theory turns into practice and where we take the first steps toward living a more meaningful life. Let's get started by talking about how to put simple principles into practice in real life. First, clean up your actual room. Take a look at what you own and ask yourself if it serves a purpose or makes you happy. If not, you might want to let them go. You can take your time with this. Start with one room or even just one box and work your way up. Second, be aware of what you're consuming. Think about whether the thing is important and in line with your values before you buy it. You can use this way of thinking in other areas of your life, like partnerships and responsibilities. Last but not least, put quality over quantity. Spend money on things and people that will make your life better. This doesn't always mean spending money. It could also mean giving time and care. Now let's talk about how to use Stoic philosophy to make choices and deal with situations. To start, work on the duality of control. Know what you can control and what you can't. Events outside of your control are out of your hands, but you can choose how to respond and what to do. When you're facing a problem, ask yourself what you can control and put your attention on those. Second, think about your values and make choices based on them. Stoicism tells us that being good is the best thing that can happen. Choose to act in a way that is honest, trustworthy, and caring. Lastly, regularly practice being aware and thinking about yourself. Take some time to think about the things you did, the choices you made, and the emotions you experienced. This practice helps you become more logical and emotionally strong. How can we find a balance between Stoicism and minimalism for our own growth? All of this must work together. Stimulate your surroundings with minimalism to support your values and goals, and train your mind to be strong, focused, and good with Stoicism. It's also important to know that Stoicism and minimalism are not either-or ways of thinking. They are flexible and can be changed to fit your needs and goals. Be steady, take small steps, and be ready to change how you do things as you learn and grow. Here are some examples of real people who have combined the two philosophies to help you understand what I mean. Take a look at the story of Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, who are known as the minimalists. Their business jobs were full of stuff, but didn't give them any meaning, so they both quit. They made their lives easier and more in line with their values by focusing on what they could control and following the principles of Stoicism through minimalism. Another example is businessman and author Tim Ferriss, who has been very open about how Stoicism has changed his life and the way he makes decisions. He has also turned to minimalism, focusing on the most important things and people in his life that are in line with his values. Combining Stoicism and minimalism can be a great way to grow as a person and live a more meaningful life. By making our outside world simpler through minimalism and strengthening our minds with Stoicism, we can create a life that is not only free of clutter, but also full of meaning and happiness. As we come to the end of this part, I want you to take a moment to think about what you like about both Stoicism and minimalism. You should think about how you can apply these principles to your own life and how they can help you grow and be happy. Let's keep going down this path together, taking in the knowledge and usefulness that Stoicism and minimalism have to offer. These philosophies can make our lives better, help us let go of the excess, and give us a deep sense of meaning. Before we go any further, though, let's be honest. The path to combining minimalism and Stoicism can be very beneficial. There are some problems along the way, and we have to work hard, be committed, and sometimes be ready to leave our comfort zones. It's also important to remember that blending is not a goal, but a path of growth and change that never ends. The way we understand and use these philosophies will change and grow as we do. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, and we will never reach the state of minimalism or Stoicism. They are with us on our lifelong path to becoming fully human. As we go along this road, let's remember to be kind and patient with ourselves. It takes time to make changes, especially ones that affect how we live and think. We will trip and fall sometimes, and that's okay. The important thing is that we get back up, learn from these mistakes, and move forward with more energy and focus. We are not going on this trip by ourselves. An enormous number of people have gone down similar roads, combining minimalism and Stoicism in their search for a more meaningful life. We can learn from their mistakes and be inspired by their stories. It can also comfort us to know that we are not the only ones looking for meaning and happiness. As we continue to explore, let's go across time and countries to learn more about the complex philosophies and religions of the East. With its thousands of years of history and thought, the East has a lot to offer people who want to live a meaningful life. It's interesting that Stoicism and minimalism are related in a number of ways. Let's look into these lovely similarities and see how they can make our lives better. Buddhism's middle way is one of the most important ideas in Buddhism. This idea supports a road of balance and staying away from extremes, which is a lot like minimalism. According to the middle way, we can live a healthy life that is good for our spiritual growth if we don't indulge in either excess or frugality. The Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, which are also part of Buddhism, are instructions for living without ties, a concept that fits with Stoic principles. The Four Noble Truths describe human pain and what causes it. The Noble Eightfold Path, on the other hand, gives advice on how to stop suffering through right behavior, right motivation, and right awareness. When we talk about awareness, Buddhism has a long history of focusing on the present moment and meditating in helping people focus on the current moment and what really counts. These techniques are consistent with Stoic awareness, focusing on our inner selves and letting go of fleeting emotions. Let's talk about Taoism and its concept of Wu Wei. Following the principles of simplicity, naturalness, and non-action is important in Taoism, which is similar to minimalism. Wu Wei means not acting or not doing. It doesn't mean not acting, but rather acting in a way that is in line with the natural flow of things. It's about doing things without thinking and living a simple life. Yin and Yang are also important in Taoism. They stand for balance and unity in nature. In Taoist thinking, this balance is very important. It is also similar to minimalism and Stoicism, which also try to find balance in one's life and emotions. Living in harmony with nature is another component. Following Taoism means living in harmony with the Tao, which is the basic idea that makes everything possible. The Stoic concept of living in harmony with nature to achieve virtue and happiness is very similar to this idea. Hinduism is another old faith in the East that talks a lot about dharma and being simple. Moral responsibility is another name for dharma. It is a way where focus and simplicity are very important. Following your dharma means living a moral and purposeful life, which is similar to the focus of minimalists on being thoughtful. Non-attachment is also important in Hindu philosophy. The idea behind this, which is related to Stoic detachment, tells people not to let their material belongings or fleeting emotions hold them back. In Hinduism, yoga and meditation are not just physical activities. They are also ways to find out more about yourself and match your inner ideals. This is a lot like Stoic self-reflection and getting in line with what is good and reasonable. Finally, let's talk about Confucianism, which has a big impact on Eastern thought. Following the principles of minimalism, Confucianism's doctrine of the mean promotes balance and simplicity. Ren, which means kindness, and Li, which means rituals and right behavior, are also very important in Confucianism. In line with Stoic values, these ideas are about moral qualities and how to act in public. Confucianism also stresses the value of relationships and getting along with others. This shows how important it is for Stoics to be involved in their communities and know that they are part of a bigger whole. Both minimalism and Stoicism have a lot in common with Eastern religions and philosophies. Mindfulness, balance, and not being attached are Eastern ideas that can be found in the principles of minimalism and Stoicism. We can focus on what is important for a happy life by following the advice of both Eastern and Western philosophies. Eastern thought is especially helpful because it focuses on personal growth, getting along with others, and how everything is linked. The lessons can be a great source of knowledge for anyone who wants to live a happier, more meaningful life. As we've seen, minimalism asks us to pare down our material possessions and put more emphasis on quality than quantity in our lives. Being logical, controlling our emotions, and seeing honor as the best thing is what Stoicism teaches us. Eastern philosophies, with their wide range of beliefs, can teach us a lot about how to live in balance with ourselves and with nature. You can find a lot of examples in real life to help you understand. Many people go about their lives without getting much attention. They live simple, good, and balanced lives. They are happy and satisfied, not because they have a lot, but because they know what's important. It's not a goal to reach this unification. It's a process. Remember what Laozi said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." This information can be that step for you. Take what the East and West have to say and find your middle ground by simplifying, rationalizing, harmonizing, and finding your way. It might not always be easy to follow this path. You might have to make compromises and tough decisions, but in the end, it gives us something priceless. A life with meaning, happiness, and a strong bond with the world around us. Now that our trip through minimalism, Stoicism, and Eastern philosophies is over, let's take a moment to think about the rich fabric of knowledge we've shown you. We started off by learning about the history of minimalism and its main principles, which are to keep things simple, be purposeful, and put quality before quantity. We talked about some of the problems and misunderstandings about living a frugal lifestyle and also found the many benefits, such as mental clarity, financial freedom, and protecting the environment. We went back in time and learned more about the deepest parts of Stoic philosophy, which comes from Greece and Rome in the Old World. We learned from Stoicism how important it is to be logical, to be able to control our emotions, and to see virtue as the greatest good. We looked at how Stoicism helps people deal with problems and how it is still useful today by reading the writings of philosophers like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus. The next stop on our trip was the place where minimalism and Stoicism meet. We saw a strong link between them in their search for simplicity, focus, and inner peace. but we also saw differences in their historical background, scope, and main goals. We talked about how these different philosophies can help us live a more meaningful life by cutting down on the unnecessary things in our lives. In addition, we talked about how to use minimalism and Stoicism in our everyday lives. We talked about how we can organize not only our real places, but also our minds by following simple principles. We also talked about how to use the Stoic philosophy to help us make decisions and deal with the things that happen around us. We saw cases of people in real life who have used both philosophies together to improve themselves. Our journey didn't end there, it got bigger as we crossed the ocean to the eastern shores. We took a look at some of the many Eastern faiths and philosophies that have things in common with minimalism and Stoicism. We found many beliefs that fit with minimalism and Stoicism, such as the middle way in Buddhism, Tao and Wu Wei in Taoism, Dharma in Hinduism, and the doctrine of the mean in Confucianism. Please don't let this be the end of your study. Instead, let it be the start. Think about how you can use the lessons you've learned from Stoicism and minimalism in your everyday life. Try out different things to see what works for you, and don't be afraid to change them to fit your needs. Different people have different ideas about how to live a meaningful and happy life. There isn't a single answer that works for everyone. You have to keep learning, unlearning, and learning again. It's a garden where seeds of knowledge from various philosophies can be planted. And with care and nurturing, they can grow into a life that is full, fulfilling, and in line with one's values and ideals. It is very important to realize that the things we buy, the praise we get, and the social standards we use to judge our own progress are all temporary. The happiness and satisfaction that come from living a life based on simplicity, virtue, and purpose are what last. Finally, let's carry on the knowledge that has been passed down for thousands of years. Let's carry the torch and light the way for each other and ourselves. Explore the world and learn new things, but most of all, look for value as you go forward. May your life be like a well-written book, where the depth of its writing is more important than its size. May the ideas of minimalism, Stoicism, and Eastern philosophies fill every page of your life with meaning, happiness, and satisfaction. As the great philosopher Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Let's keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep moving through life with virtue as our anchor and knowledge as our guide. Thanks for coming along with me on this trip. Your way should be clear, and your heart should lead you to a life that is meaningful and full of happiness. Marcus Aurelius is one of the few people in history who has had such a life-lasting impact on philosophy and leadership. As Emperor of Rome and a devoted follower of Stoicism, his life was a living example of self-discipline and strength. Today, we'll examine his philosophies in greater detail, look at how he taught and showed self-discipline throughout his life, and find practical ways to incorporate his lessons into our own lives today. Stoicism is based on the ideas of a school of philosophy that started in ancient Greece and grew during the time of the Roman Empire. Because of what Marcus Aurelius wrote and taught, Stoicism became very famous. Epictetus and Zeno of Citium, two early Stoic philosophers, made important additions to what we know about Stoic philosophy. As a philosophy, Stoicism stresses the importance of self-discipline, personal virtue, and strength. It offers a way to deal with life problems, handle and control emotions, and find peace in the middle of chaos in the outside world. The Stoics think that we have full control over our own thoughts, deeds, and emotions, but not over the things that happen around us. The Stoic philosophy gives us a deep understanding of what it means to be human and how we are connected to and a part of the world. When things happen that are out of our control, we should focus on what we can do, like adopting principles like understanding, self-control, and fairness. The way of Stoicism leads to a life of moral purity, change, and personal growth. In the year 165 AD, people living by the Stoic philosophy reached their highest level of devotion during the Antonine Plague, which killed a lot of people in the Roman Empire. It destroyed the land, took many lives, and caused fear and chaos in the Roman Empire, resulting in one of the worst depressions in history. During this crisis, Emperor Marcus Aurelius showed amazing leadership skills by blending his unshakable determination with the deep lessons of the Stoic philosophy. He got through the plague by using the Stoic way of thinking, which gave his people security, courage, and hope. The Antonine Plague, which was thought to be an attack of smallpox or measles, hit the Roman Empire with a force that had never been seen before. The plague quickly spread, destroying the empire's social and economic order and making the people afraid because of the chaos and doubt it caused. As a leader, Aurelius saw how important it was to have a way to guide people through this time of chaos and turned to the Stoic philosophy. He looked inside himself for knowledge and strength to help him face the task. Aurelius followed the practice of Stoicism, which says that you should accept the difficulties of life and stay good even when things go wrong. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Seneca taught him that virtue alone is enough to make someone happy. He also learned that real happiness and power come from inside a person, not from their surroundings. By facing the facts about the plague, Aurelius built up his strength and refused to let fear take over. Instead, he concentrated on his own personality and how he dealt with the problem, which were under his control. Marcus Aurelius set a good example by living by the Stoic values he believed in. He showed unshakable courage and strength by staying strong even when he was going through terrible things and huge problems. Even though it put his health at constant risk, he worked hard to meet the needs of his people, showing understanding and kindness. Through his actions, he told his people to be strong and find peace within themselves. There was a lot going on in his life, but Stoicism helped him find meaning and purpose. He knew that the plague was a chance to improve himself and help others get stronger. The situation acted as a warning of how short life is and how important it is to live virtuously. Through thinking about how life is temporary, Aurelius told his people to enjoy every moment, put virtue above financial gain, and learn to be thankful even when things are bad. The Roman Empire was strengthened and comforted by Aurelius's use of Stoic philosophy, despite the Antonine Plague's severe suffering. His guidance and strength made it possible for the kingdom to eventually recover and be restored. Today, the lessons of Stoicism that Aurelius taught us are still relevant because they remind us of the strength of the human spirit and the ability to find inner peace even in the worst situations. The worst time for the Roman Empire was during the Antonine Plague. Marcus Aurelius turned to the timeless knowledge of Stoic philosophy when he was faced with this terrible problem. With courage, strength, and knowledge, he led his people through the storm and helped them rebuild their lives. The Stoic way of thinking gives us hope by telling us that even in the worst situations, people can rise above their problems, hold on to hope, and win. Stoic lessons have stayed useful over the years and continue to give smart advice to people who want to figure out how to deal with the complicated things in life. It focuses on resilience, self-discipline, and other traits that give people useful tools for dealing with everyday problems, getting through hard times, and finding meaning in a world that is always changing and becoming more complicated. We will look at some important principles that can help us evaluate our lives, as well as the lessons of famous Stoic philosophers that can help us use the idea of Stoicism in real life. We can start a life-changing journey towards self-discovery, inner peace, and living a happy life by learning about Stoic philosophy. As you know, Marcus Aurelius, who was a famous and important philosopher, fully accepted Stoicism as his driving principle and lived his life according to its rules. Stoicism, which has its roots in ancient Greece and gained popularity during the Roman era, emphasizes the development of virtue and fortitude in the face of difficulties. The goal of self-mastery through self-control and discipline is at the heart of this philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, the respected Roman emperor, was the personification of Stoicism. He lived by its lessons and used them to handle the challenges of his life with unshakable strength and knowledge. Stoicism encourages people to find their inner powers and become more resilient. It also suggests that people improve their moral character by exercising moderation and using knowledge to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. The importance of resilience in dealing with hardship was also recognized by Stoic philosophers. Stoic principles give people the power to take control of their minds and, as a result, their ideas, emotions, and actions, which are always in line with their values and goals. At its core, Stoicism provides a complete framework for personal improvement and the desire for a good and strong life. Although we can control our emotions, thoughts, and actions, events and occurrences may be outside of our control. Humans are typically emotional beings. At its heart is this idea of Stoicism. As Marcus Aurelius put it, real power comes from being able to control your own thoughts and actions. We can get to this level of inner strength by working on our self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius said in his famous book, Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote sums up the Stoic idea that we should focus our energy on controlling our thoughts and emotions rather than letting outside events dictate how we feel inside. During their reigns, great leaders often faced the hardest problems. Marcus Aurelius, as ruler of Rome, was no different. During his time in office, he faced many difficult problems and failures that tested his strength and determination. As Emperor of Rome, Aurelius had to deal with many difficult situations that required all of his attention and smart thinking. The Roman Empire was in danger of losing its security and wealth because of things like civil unrest, war, battles, and unstable economies. Despite these problems, he faced them with unshakable resolve and a dedication to the well-being of his people. During his rule, Aurelius showed an unmatched ability to bounce back from losses. He knew that being a leader meant sticking with things even when they got tough. He never gave up on finding answers that would protect the empire's well-being, even when it meant losing battles or dealing with problems within the empire. His leading style was marked by his ability to keep going, even when things went wrong. In addition, his spiritual beliefs, especially his practice of Stoicism, helped him a great deal when things were hard. Stoicism taught him to see problems as chances to grow and to keep his sense of right and wrong even when things went wrong. It stressed getting stronger on the inside and being okay with things that are out of your control. By using Stoic principles in his leadership style, Aurelius was able to deal with failures in a historical way, which made him strong and motivated the people around him. Despite the huge problems he had to deal with, he stayed committed to the well-being of his people. His dedication to good government and the search for justice was a driving force during his rule. Taking action to handle the worries of his people, he made changes to improve living conditions and promote the empire's overall well-being. Marcus's personal life was a great example of how well he could keep himself disciplined. Marcus was found to be humble and aware of how temporary power and material things are, even when he was emperor. Meditations and thoughts that led to constant self-improvement while seeking knowledge were important parts of Marcus's personal life. He was also a man of great character, which helped him make choices and act in certain ways. Aurelius rose to power as a leader of great strength and intelligence, leaving a record of bravery and kindness that will last for generations. As Marcus Aurelius showed, the world is still learning about Stoic principles to develop self-discipline in our lives. Right now, we can use some of these same principles. Being consistent and judging yourself are two very useful ways to practice self-discipline. We can make it a habit to think about our values and life purpose every morning, just like Marcus Aurelius did. This will help us see how our actions and words match up with those things. The physical discipline of daily exercise not only improves our physical health, but also makes our minds stronger. Marcus understood the deep link between the mind and body and stressed how important it was to take care of both. Being mindful is another powerful way to develop self-discipline. We can better control our feelings and make smart decisions if we train ourselves to be fully present in every moment. One of the ideas behind Stoicism is to be thankful and try to be calm. Marcus Aurelius thought that noticing the wonderful and beautiful things in life, even when things are hard, can make you stronger and more resilient. We can become more firm in character by practicing thanks every day and keeping things in perspective. Last but not least, Stoic philosophy places a high value on society and relationships. Marcus felt that working together and helping other people become more self-disciplined could be very helpful. The Marcus Aurelius principles would need to be applied in order to take a critical look at Stoic philosophy as it relates to developing self-discipline in the modern world. Marcus Aurelius wrote a lot about how important it is to have control over your mind, which is the first thing to think about. During the meditation, he talked about how the quality of our lives is linked to the way we think and how important it is to exercise control over our thoughts. Marcus Aurelius thought that the only way to really be powerful was to be able to control our own minds and choose what we think. Marcus Aurelius said that our perceptions, emotions, and behaviors are shaped by the ideas we have. He understood that pain and the ability to live fulfilling lives can be caused by negative or useless thoughts. Because of this, he pushed for the practice of mindfulness and self-awareness, telling people to become aware of their thought processes and actively fight against false beliefs. To control our thinking, we need to be disciplined and alert all the time. It means asking the truth of our thoughts, changing the way we think about bad stories, and picking more positive points of view to live a more fulfilling life. We can match our ideas with Stoic principles and have an inner conversation that is based on reason and ethics. Writing in a diary was a useful skill that Marcus Aurelius used. He looked at his thoughts and emotions every day, reflecting and introspecting to try to figure out where they came from and what impact they had. This practice helped him notice trends in the way he thought and change his ideas in a way that led to better ones. Marcus Aurelius thought that we could become stronger in the face of hardship by controlling our thinking. He understood that we can't control what happens in the outside world, but we can choose how to react to it. Whatever is going on, we can find inner peace and strength by actively focusing our thoughts on things like thanks, acceptance, and virtue. Practicing controlling our thinking is still useful and important in the current world. Being aware of our thought habits, getting rid of negative thoughts, and building positive perceptions are all skills we need to improve our health, endurance, and ability to handle life's obstacles with ease. Second, Stoic philosophy stresses the significance of taking what is outside of our control and refocusing on what we can change, our actions and attitudes. Stoics think that worrying about things we can't change causes us needless stress and anger. They instead say we should focus our energy on things we can change, like our own decisions, actions, and attitudes. We can be more flexible and keep our peace of mind if we accept that change and uncertainty are going to happen. When we look at the Stoic principle with a critical eye, it shows that our biggest power is the people we can affect, focusing on what we can change, and taking actions that are in line with our values are things we need to work on growing. Third, Marcus thought it was important to make plans and objectives that were in line with our values. To become self-disciplined, you need to have a clear calling, goal, and life purpose. We make good decisions and take good action when we know our values and make sure they are in line with our goals. Setting goals based on our values helps us figure out what's most important to us and gives us direction as we face the challenges of life in line with our true selves. It helps us make choices and decisions that give us a sense of dignity and satisfaction in our purpose. We can focus our efforts and actions on self-discipline and personal growth by making our purpose clear and setting meaningful goals. Marcus Aurelius said that learning self-control is one of the most important parts of becoming self-disciplined. In order to develop inner strength and achieve personal growth, he thought we must exercise control over our desires, urges, and emotions. Self-control helps us learn to wait for what we want, say no to temptations, and make decisions that are in line with our values and long-term goals. Self-control, according to Marcus Aurelius, is not about denying ourselves joy. Instead, it's about making choices that will bring you more happiness and help you grow as a person over time. By controlling ourselves, we boost our willpower and become more dedicated to our self-discipline road. Marcus pointed out that building up resiliency is an important part of Stoic philosophy. Stoicism teaches us to not be afraid of the problems and failures that come up in life, seeing them as chances to learn and grow. In this case, resilience means being able to deal with problems and difficulties while still feeling strong and stable inside. Marcus says that an attitude that accepts that life changes and is unpredictable helps people be resilient. Stoics know that we can't change the things that happen to us outside of our control, but we can change how we react inside of ourselves. When we accept that things will change and that the world is unsure, we build up inner strength that lets us handle the storm with strength and calm. In Stoicism, being resilient also means seeing losses and mistakes as opportunities to grow as a person. Stoics see challenges as chances to put traits like courage, determination, and patience into practice, rather than as barriers to overcome. We build the strength to handle life's ups and downs by accepting difficulties as part of our journey. When we focus on the things we can control, we can focus our attention on them and feel better about ourselves. We become more resilient when we don't let outside events control how we feel. We can keep our inner peace and calm even when bad things happen because we are resilient. In Stoic philosophy, building resilience entails accepting life's flaws, seeing setbacks as chances to grow, and concentrating on what we can control. Before we end this video, let's look at 3 important lessons from Marcus Aurelius's most important work, Meditations, that can help us become more self-disciplined and understand how important it is to live a good and fulfilling life. The power of the present moment is the first lesson. Marcus Aurelius said in Meditations, "Do not bother yourself by picturing your life as a whole. Do not load into your mind the many and varied troubles that have come to you in the past and will come again in the future, but ask yourself with each present difficulty, what is there in this that is unbearable and beyond endurance?" This quote sums up what it means to be in the present moment. Often we can't be self-disciplined because our thoughts are filled with regrets from the past or worries about the future. Aurelius shows us how important it is to focus on the present moment. By doing so, we can break down seemingly overwhelming tasks into doable pieces and practice control and discipline in our instant actions. This focus on the present moment is a cornerstone of self-discipline. allowing us to take meaningful and virtuous actions without being overwhelmed. Lesson 2 is separation from outward approval. Marcus Aurelius was very aware of how short-lived fame and other people's opinions were. He wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinions of himself than on the opinions of others." This observation highlights the human tendency to seek validation and approval from the outside world, often at the expense of our own values and integrity. Self-discipline, as Aurelius suggests, needs a separation from this outward reinforcement. Instead, we must focus on cultivating inner virtues and following our moral compass. This inner-directed focus enables us to make decisions and take actions that are in alignment with our values, rather than being swayed by the ever-changing opinions of others. It helps us to build a strong foundation of self-discipline, which is grounded in self-respect and personal integrity. Lesson 3 is adaptability and acceptance. One of the most celebrated quotes from Meditations is, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This quote is the epitome of adaptability and acceptance, two traits closely associated with self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that obstacles and challenges are not just to be endured, but can be transformed into opportunities for growth and learning. Self-discipline involves the ability to adapt our actions and attitudes in response to the challenges we face. Instead of resisting or lamenting the difficulties, we can embrace them as opportunities to exercise virtue, to learn, and to grow. This mindset not only helps in building self-discipline, but also in fostering resilience and a deep sense of contentment. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations offer a treasure trove of wisdom for building self-discipline. By focusing on the present moment, detaching from external validation, and embracing adaptability and acceptance, we can cultivate a form of self-discipline that is deeply grounded in wisdom and virtue. This self-discipline is not just about control, but about living a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment, regardless of the external circumstances. By embracing the core principles of Stoicism, self-mastery, acceptance, and resilience, we have the potential to cultivate self-discipline in our modern lives. Self-mastery, as Marcus Aurelius believed, starts with gaining control over our thoughts and emotions. By actively observing and guiding our inner world, we can shape our responses to external events and maintain a sense of composure and clarity. Acceptance is another crucial element of building self-discipline. Developing resilience, as espoused by Aurelius, is cultivated by reframing setbacks as opportunities for growth. By viewing obstacles as stepping stones on our journey, we can develop the strength and perseverance necessary to face adversity with unwavering determination. Resilience also involves maintaining a sense of inner peace and stability, even when circumstances are chaotic or unfavorable. To build self-discipline, we can incorporate practical strategies inspired by Aurelius into our lives. Establishing consistent routines, engaging in physical discipline, practicing mindfulness, expressing gratitude, and fostering communal support all contribute to our growth and development. Ultimately, living a more disciplined and fulfilling life can be achieved by following the Marcus Aurelius principles. We can develop the strength and fortitude to navigate through life's challenges with self-control. As we stand at the crossroads of history and philosophy, the figure of Marcus Aurelius towers above, casting a long shadow that has weathered the sands of time. In a world that is often chaotic and ever-changing, the importance of self-discipline becomes a beacon, a guiding light that can lead us through the storm. Through the lens of Aurelius and Stoic teachings, self-discipline is not a mere trait, but an art of living. Self-discipline is the compass by which we navigate the seas of life. It is the anchor that holds us steady amid tempests and the sails that propel us forward. Through self-discipline, we attain mastery over ourselves, which in turn begets a deeper understanding and engagement with the world around us. Thanks a lot. The life and philosophy of Marcus Aurelius serve as a testament to the transformative power of self-discipline. In this constantly interconnected world where distractions are incessant and information is ceaseless, we need self-discipline now more than ever. It is through self-discipline that we can filter out the noise and focus on what truly matters. It is through self-discipline that we can be true to our values and principles and act not on impulse, but with deliberation and wisdom. What is particularly astonishing is how Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who lived nearly 2 millennia ago, could grapple with many of the same challenges and inner conflicts that we face today. This illuminates a profound truth. The human experience at its core is unchanging. Our fears, aspirations, dilemmas, and yearnings weave a common thread through the tapestry of time, and it is in this tapestry that the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius finds its enduring resonance. We live in an age of unprecedented opportunities and possibilities, yet with these opportunities come challenges and responsibilities. The Stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius equips us with the mental fortitude to embrace these challenges, to wield them not as burdens, but as catalysts for growth and self-realization. As we conclude this video, let us reflect on the magnitude of our potential. Each one of us, in our own unique way, can be a philosopher, a seeker of truth and a bearer of wisdom. Let the words of Marcus Aurelius be a reminder of the indomitable spirit that resides within each of us. Let his stoic resolve inspire us to build our reservoir of self-discipline. As we forge ahead on our respective journeys, let us carry with us the knowledge that self-discipline is not an end, but a means to lead lives of purpose, integrity, and fulfillment. Let us remember that in the grand theatre of existence, we are both the playwright and the protagonist. Through self-discipline, we can pen epics of triumph, odes to joy, and ballads of resilience within the vast chronicles of history. Let the chapters we author be woven with threads of wisdom. Let each page be steeped in purpose, and let the ink that flows from our quills be that of self-discipline. With Marcus Aurelius as our steadfast sentinel, guiding us from the revered corridors of antiquity, let us march ahead with our gazes fixed firmly on the horizon and our hearts ablaze with the boundless vigor of possibility. It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them. Epictetus. Imagine a world where external events no longer dictate your happiness, where you have complete control over your emotions, and where you can find peace in the midst of chaos. Welcome to the world of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that has guided countless individuals towards personal growth and fulfillment for centuries. At the heart of this philosophy lies the wisdom of Epictetus, a former slave-turned-philosopher who transformed his life through the power of Stoic thought. Today, we'll dive into the teachings of this extraordinary man and uncover the top 10 lessons from his renowned work, the Enchiridion. Epictetus was born in Phrygia, present-day Turkey, around 50 AD. Despite being born into slavery, he rose above his circumstances and became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers of all time. As a slave, he was owned by a high-ranking Roman official who recognized his intellectual potential and allowed him to study philosophy. Epictetus eventually became a student of the philosopher Musonius Rufus, who was a prominent Stoic teacher in Rome. After gaining his freedom, he began teaching philosophy in Rome, where his reputation quickly grew. However, when the Roman Emperor Domitian expelled all philosophers from Rome in 89 AD, Epictetus was forced to flee. He found refuge in Nicopolis, Greece, where he established a philosophical school that attracted students from across the Roman Empire. His teachings were recorded by one of his students, Arrian, who compiled them into two main works, the Discourses and the Enchiridion. The Enchiridion, also known as the Handbook or Manual, is a concise collection of Epictetus's most essential teachings. It is a practical guide to living a virtuous life, providing valuable insights on how to navigate the challenges and uncertainties of our existence. The Stoic philosophy centers on the idea that we cannot control external events, but we can control our reactions to them. By cultivating inner strength, wisdom, and resilience, we can remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. This is achieved by focusing on our actions and thoughts rather than being swayed by external circumstances or the opinions of others.